Number 6.
SuicideMouse.avi.
Oh, this
There
one's fake
apparently
too.
exists an
Because there's a
unreleased
sound
Mickey
cue
Mouse
in this that
cartoon
has
made by Walt Disney himself.
that if you go to
in the
freesound.org,
1930s.
you could hear
Download the EasyCater
what
app
those
and put
screams
over
actually were.
60,000 caterers in your pocket at easycater.com.
Why it hasn't been released is due to strange happenings. Up
Also,
until a
welcome
year
back,
or two
part
ago,
2.
everyone believed that the cartoon was nothing but a looping animation of Mickey walking down a road with 6 buildings for 3 minutes before fading out. The music sounded creepy and disturbing, like as if someone was just banging on a piano. It was not your regular jolly Mickey Mouse music, but people believed that was all. But recently, while reviewing the cartoon for DVD, something seemed odd. The cartoon was actually 9 minutes and 4 seconds long. After cutting to black, 6 minutes in, Mickey came back on screen, walking. And I'll let the video speak for itself. In the end, a close-up of Mickey's face is shown, possibly to signify the end of the episode. Gateway of the Mind. In 1983, a team of scientists conducted a radical experiment in an undisclosed facility. The scientists had theorized that a human without access to any senses or ways to perceive stimuli would be able to perceive the presence of God. The only test subject to volunteer was an elderly man who claimed to have nothing left to live for. They performed a complex operation on the man, removing all of his senses. He could not see, hear, taste, smell, or feel. After a few days, the man cried that he could hear his dead wife speaking to him, and even more, he could communicate back. The scientists were not fully convinced until the man started to name dead relatives of the scientists. Soon enough, the man became distressed and insane. For at every conscious moment, he could hear hundreds of voices speaking to him, refusing to leave him alone. Only a day later, the man started to claw at his non-functional eyes, hoping to feel something. He claimed the voices were hostile, speaking of hell and the end of the world. He begged to be killed, but the scientists were convinced that he was close to establishing contact with God. A day later, the man seemed mad and started to bite off chunks of flesh from his own arm. The scientists rushed in and restrained him to a table so he could not kill himself. After hours of being tied down, the man halted his struggling and screaming. The man cried non-stop for 2 weeks and had to be manually rehydrated due to the constant crying. Eventually, he turned his head and, despite his apparent blindness, focused his eyes on one of the scientists and spoke his final words.
I have spoken to God, and He has abandoned us.
The man then died. There was no apparent cause of death. Slender Man. Of course, which top creepypasta list wouldn't be complete without the infamous Slender Man? I'm not gonna spend much time on this guy, because you all know who he is, and you all know what he does. And if not, you can check out my other video entitled, Is Slender Man Real? Here on my channel.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that one next. So... But do note that that video came out before this top 13 list.
The Rake. Why did I rank the Rake higher than Slenderman, you may ask? Well, look at that fucking design! That's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen! The first time I saw this picture, I could not get it out of my head. It's so inhuman, so detailed, and so disgusting. And also, the thought of a human, dog-like creature with sharp claws sneaking into your room at night and mauling you is, in my opinion, a lot scarier than some buzz from a tall white guy. Here's a summary of one of the most well-known stories about the Rake. A woman woke up and noticed how her husband was lying perfectly still next to her. When she asked him what was wrong, he tucked into the fetal position and stared at the side of the bed. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from them, there was what appeared to be a naked man, or a large hairless dog of some sort. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, as if it had been hit by a car or something. The creature crawled over to the husband, until it was less than a foot away from his face. The creature was completely silent for 5 seconds, until it dashed off into the hallway, to the kids' room. When the woman got to the hallway, the light from the bedroom was enough to see it crouching and hunched over about 20 feet away. It turned around and looked directly at her, covered in blood. It had murdered the woman's daughter. It then dashed off, down the stairs. The full story can be found very easily. Just Google it. But be aware, it's very scary. But it's Halloween, so it's okay.
They knew he was called the Rake. I think about it now, but it's more like a dream. But I know it was real. I know that he was real. And I know that I will see him again.
On to one.
Cheers here.
Ever wonder if there's a better way to shop for furniture?
Number 2.
The Russian sleep experiment. During the late 1940s,
This one's fake as
Russian
well.
researchers kept 5
well as the
people awake
previous
for
one was
15
fake.
days by exposing them to an experimental gas. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake, so the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. The test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during World War II. After 5 days, the men started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering into the microphones. After some days, one of the captives started screaming for 3 hours straight, until he supposedly ripped out his own vocal cords. The other captives did not react to this at all, and kept on whispering. Suddenly, the screaming and whispering stopped, abruptly. After 3 more days, the researchers checked to see if the microphones were working, since there was nothing but silence in the room. The microphones were working perfectly fine. The researchers used the intercom and announced, "We are opening the chambers to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor or you will be shot.
Open the door,
Compliance
get on
will
the
earn
floor,
one of you
everybody No, I'm just
limited
kidding.
freedom." To their surprise, they heard a single phrase and a calm voice respond, "We no longer want to be freed." The researchers filled the room with fresh air, and the captives immediately begged for the gas to be turned on again. When the researchers entered the room, they noticed something truly terrifying. The captives had been removing their own flesh, eating it, and exposing their inner organs. They put up a fierce fight while being captured, and one of the subjects died fighting. He kept screaming for more.
And more and more gas.
The remaining captives were taken to a medical facility. There, as the commander ordered the captives to be sent back into the chamber along with 3 researchers. One of the 3 immediately drew his gun and shot the commander and one of the captives as everyone else fled the room. The researcher stated, "I won't be locked in there with these things. Not with you. What are you?" he demanded. "I must know." The subject smiled.
Have you forgotten so easily?
The subject asked.
We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread.
The subject was then shot dead, and as the subject died, he uttered out his final words.
So nearly free.
Number 1. Yes, Squidward suicide. Oops, sorry, ran out of time. That was it, boys.